This video is about Ona Z. Now, she was a very nice actress. She was sophisticated and smarter than the average actress in that business. I never did a movie with her, but I was very honored to get to know her a little bit. She became a model and an actress at the age of 12. She was a professional model for the prestigious Wilhelmina agency in the 70s. She took acting classes and appeared on commercials like for JCPenney's, Levi Jeans, and Ultra Bright toothpaste. She started performing in that particular genre in the 80s. Eventually, she founded her own production company, Ona Z Productions, and that was in the 90s. She tried to start a union for the actors in the business. Now, this is something that had been done before. I tried to start a union with Ira Levine back in the 80s, and it didn't work, basically because all of the production companies decided to blacklist anyone who would be involved. Now, back in the 80s, the main reason we started a union, or tried to, was because of the AIDS epidemic and HIV and all of that. We wanted to protect ourselves with condoms, and I think this might have been integral in Ona's mind as well. And unfortunately, she met with similar backlash, so neither of us were able to get that done. Of course, Sharon Mitchell later came along, and instead of using condoms, she suggested that people would be tested on a regular basis. Of course, that kind of backfired when you found people like Mark Wallace, and I did a video about him, who was testing positive for HIV and still working and faking his test results with disastrous consequences. Several actresses were infected, and I believe one, at least, is already passed as a result of that. Unfortunately, he walks free. Don't ask me why. But the thing I want to point out here is that Ona started in the legitimate business. She started with Wilhelmina Agency. I mean, that's a well-known agency. So you have to ask yourself, why? Why did people like Ona, who started in the legitimate business, Paul Thomas, who was in Jesus Christ Superstar multiple times, not only the movie, but the Broadway production and touring company. So they're not the only ones. You know, I did some commercials, I did things like that too. I did professional theater, dinner theater. And why did we get into that business? I got one answer for you. Read the Epstein files. Look at all these women who wanted to do these things, who aspired to something better, you know, were actresses or models, worked as a model for, let's say, Victoria's Secret, but found out the hard way that men in positions of power demanded that they give them sexual favors. Maybe they didn't even just demand it, they just took it. You know, some people are so desperate for fame and fortune and to fulfill their dream that they want to believe that there are people that they can trust, people in positions of power that really see something in them and want to do something for them. They believe in the goodness of humanity. They believe that in every person there is something good and that this person is trying to do something nice for them. They think, hey, I'll take you to an island in the Virgin Islands and we can talk about business. They see that as oh, how nice. That'll be like a vacation and we can further my career. Here's someone who really sees something in me and can do something for me. And other people are like, what? Hell no. Excuse me, that sounds like a trap to me. You're going to take me to the Virgin Islands outside of this country in your own private airplane, and I'll be trapped. How do I get off? You know, how do I leave if I want to go? You know, I don't feel safe doing that. Some people have been through things in their life where red flags start flying up when people offer these things, and they realize this is not safe. And so they decide to pull back. I'm not saying that that happened to Ona Z. I'm not saying that that happened to Paul Thomas or other people. It certainly happened to me. And I decided, others who have been in my shoes and gone through those certain things have decided that they would rather not do that, that they don't want to put themselves in a position where they're vulnerable and people in positions of power hold on to their passports and their ticket to freedom in return for whatever perverted ideas they might have. And it might not just be sex. It might be murder, cannibalism, or any of these other things we've been hearing about. So in lieu of going down that road, people like Ona Z and myself chose to get involved in this business, which on the clear front, you look at it and you might say, that is a sleazy business to get involved with. And I'm not going to argue with you on that. There are people, I did a video about having to hold a film hostage in order to get paid. So yeah, there's certainly your fair share of sleazeballs in that business, no doubt about it. But as an actress, Ona Z and people like myself and Paul Thomas had more control over what was going on because all of the hanky-panky was being done in front of the camera. So at least there were other people there if we were in a position of danger where we would say, stop, I'm being hurt or whatever. There hopefully, and I know from experience, there are people on the set that will step forward and stop this abuse. When people like Ona have such talent and they've got so much going on, this is a woman who started her own production company. Again, you have to ask, why did they choose to go in that direction instead of stay on the path that they were on? And I think it's all coming to light now with the Epstein files. You can see what people like us were up against. And this is why we chose this profession instead. We didn't want to give up on our dream entirely. Now, a lot of you have left in comments that this isn't acting. Oh, I assure you it is. You try working with some of these guys that are less than stellar, let's just say. Not the kind of person we would choose, and certainly not the kind of action we would choose, and make it look like you're having fun. So yeah, that is acting. And I'm not even talking about back in the day when we had a script and we did dialogue before the scenes, and you have movies like The Ribald Tales of Canterbury where all of our dialogue was in Middle English. It's a takeoff of Chaucer's Canterbury Tales. Yeah, there is definitely acting. And not only just the action scenes, which in many cases is a award-winning performance, let me tell you. But Ona was good at what she did, and she was smart. I had several private conversations with her at the Consumer Electronics Show, the Video Software Dealer Association Convention, all of those different places where we would meet once a year. I was guaranteed to meet up with all of my peers twice a year, once at the Consumer Electronics Show, once at the Video Software Dealers Association Convention. And I got to know her a little bit there. Again, like I said, I never made a movie with her. But she always struck me as having a lot on the ball, being very smart and obviously gorgeous, just gorgeous. So she had a wonderful career ahead of her. She was doing great in the 70s as far as being with Wilhelmina Agency, doing all of these commercials and stuff like that. She could easily have pursued a career in mainstream acting, But like many of us, even though she might have had her Screen Actors Guild union card, she decided that wasn't for her. And you have to ask yourself why. Again, I point my finger to the Epstein files. It's pretty obvious what goes on behind the camera nowadays, whether you're modeling or you're acting or you're in the singing business. Whenever you have men in positions of power, they will try to take advantage of it with a beautiful young woman. And someone who's smart, like Ona Z, will decide, I'm sorry, I'm not playing that game, and turn around and walk away. And in my humble opinion, I think she has done brilliantly in her career. She didn't need to be abused and turned over from one guy to the next in order to get a job in that business. She did quite well on her own, started her own production company. So there you go. Anyway, thank you for watching my video.